Good morning. Good morning. Ooh, I am so happy today is Friday. I am so happy. I hope you had an amazing week. I know I had a very long, busy week, but it was a good week. So I hope all of my friends had a great week as well. Thank you for those that keep showing up with me live, especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I know Thursdays is a throwback Thursday, but those be some good messages. So I hope you be tuning in on Thursdays for throwback Thursdays. Um, but yeah, today's conversation came up. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, I was speaking about healing. And healing is one of the key principles that I love to talk about because of the journey that I have gone through. And I always feel as though when we share our testimonies and what we have overcome and how we overcame it, is going to be so important for others on their own journey. So today I want to talk to you about ways to know when you have healed, right? There's going to be actual signs. Good morning, Paula. Happy Friday. Yes. There's going to always be signs that you're healing, right? But the one thing I always say, I love when people see and they notice that I have done some healing, right? Others are going to also identify that. They're going to see. It's going to be so clear. And that is one thing that we should strive to want. Like your healing is for you, but it's a beautiful thing when other people that know you, that knew you in the past, know how you handle things, how you did things, how you spoke about things, how you resolve things, and then they see you making progression and they see a change and they identify it. That's where I feel like that's where we should all strive because it is a beautiful space when others are like, wow, because that gives them hope that a change can happen in them no matter what they're struggling or dealing with. Because I don't know why, but our society don't believe that change is possible. Like people can change. And I've had many conversations with people over the years. So I want to talk to you about two people who has been in my life or who was in my life. One person is no longer in my life, but I want to talk to you about how I had my father, right? My father left my life. Well, yeah, my father left my life when I was two. He was no longer a part of our family. He went through his own stuff, his own issues, and he was not there, right? And that is just the reality of what my family had to deal with. So I grew up with anger, frustration. I was always mad about my father. And believe it or not, it took me a long time to realize why I was mad. I wasn't mad because he wasn't there for me. I was really mad because my sister, I have an older sister, I saw how she responded. So to watch my big sister cry and be upset, be disappointed because the father that she knew, like she had 7, 8 years with him, 9 years with him, whereas I had no memories, right? And so to see her hurt, that's why I kind of carried that. But that took me many years, so many years later, to realize why I carry this. But yeah, I hated my father. If you mentioned his name, it was like 0 to 100. If I saw him and he tried to, because sometimes, unfortunately, you will have some fathers who are not present in their children's lives. And then when they see them, they'll be like, oh, you should call me daddy. And it's like, sir, we're not doing this. And see how I responded to that? That is a very mild response. That was not the response that 15-year-old Tanisha was given back in the days. Okay. I was going ham. And so I started to rebuild that, or at least start to forgive my father back in 2015, 2016. Really didn't get serious about it until like the latter part of 2016. And so everyone who knew me, like I said, they knew how I dealt with that. And I mean, it was bad to the point where if you had the same name as my father, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to have anything to do with you. If you were born, my father is his birthday is the week before mine, so he falls under the zodiac sign of a Leo. If you was a Leo, I didn't want to talk to you. Like it was that bad, right? So there was a lot of trauma that I was carrying with me over the years, and so going through the healing process, I started to realize, when I knew I was at a healthier space with him, was when I was able to be around him and not have a physical reaction. And so that's the first thing that you're going to know that you're healing is when your body is no longer reacting in a negative manner, when your spirit is no longer super agitated the moment that their name is even mentioned. Like I said, if you introduced me to someone that had the same name as him, I was rolling my eyes, I was sucking my teeth, I was feeling some kind of tension because it was connected to that. And so carrying that, that's something that became a true hindrance. And I can only imagine I might have missed out on a possible great love because of the fact that I was like blocking out those different things. So that was one thing that I noticed, like you're not responding the same way. You're not your body is not tense. You are not you're not spazzing out. You're calm about it. I can listen to him. My father he has a stutter. That's where I get my stutter from. And I remember hearing my mother say something about his stutter, which was a negative thing. And that also will help me to block from hearing him. So when I got to hold on, what is going on with Zoom? Zoom is doing everything but what I needed to do, which is nothing. When I got to that space, even if he was stuttering, I still was able to hear him. I found patience and able to having that conversation with him. And so that's when I knew, like, wow, I know I'm in a healthier space with this person. I know that because my body is not responding. I'm not responding. I'm not, I'm calm. I can hear him. My body's in a neutral space, and I found peace in the rebuilding or the development because I really feel like it's a new relationship because I've never had a relationship with my father. So that was one way that I knew that I was healing was how my body was feeling, how my spirit was allowing me to respond. The second situation, very similar. Now, although I said for many of years I avoided dating men who were under the zodiac sign of a Leo, right? So back in 2010, I met a gentleman. Thought he was very handsome. I let him know. I made it known that I was interested, which allowed us to start having conversations. And come to find out, him and my father, I think, are 2 days apart. I think their birthdays are either 2 or 3 days apart. So he's also under a Leo. And I said, you know what? I realized that was one of the dumbest reasons not to date someone. Like, you're putting so many limitations, Tanisha. Give this person a chance. That might have been the one time that I should have stuck to that theory, right? Don't deal with them. But I did into the relationship with someone. And all I am going to say is I should have left a lot sooner. I'm going to touch on that part in number three. But I should have left and I stayed. I stayed together for 2 years. And because of how things ended up being, the first thing was I had my first miscarriage in that relationship. That person was not there for me. Like he did not show up when I needed to have my DNC done because in my particular GYN, he was able to do the DNC in his office. And so they gave me instructions. And when I reached out to my ex, he was like, no. Like, it was just a no because he said no. Like, he didn't, like, it was just like, oh, no, I don't want to wash my car today. It was something like as simple as that. But it was like, this is a serious situation. So luckily I was able to find someone because they would not even release me to an Uber or to a cab. Like, they wanted to make sure someone was walking you into your house or to your apartment, and he was not trying to be there for me. Now that happened in April of 2011. I didn't leave that relationship until October, the end of October of 2012. And it was to the point where God was just like smushing everything in my face. I ended up finding out that that person, in fact, did lie to me. They said that they had no children and that the child that we were trying to have in 2011 was going to be both our first child. And come to find out that he, in fact, had three children at that time. Um, but three children that I know of. I don't. It could have been more. It could have been more. And that the woman, I never got the confirmation of whether or not this woman was his wife or just the children's mother, but she did carry his same last name on social media. And so when that relationship ended, I couldn't stand him. I hated him. I went back into the mindset of if they're a Leo, I'm not dealing with a Leo. That's when I went into hyper defense mode. I would do a research on everyone. Anyone that I was dating, I had to do research. Luckily, he had a nickname that is not common. So I didn't have to really worry about anyone having his name and me having that kind of response. But if someone brought up the miscarriage, if someone brought up that person, again, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, like I'm ready to go to war because I'm like I felt like I wasted 2 years of my life, and I think I was really hurt around the fact that we almost had a child together, and you perceived and you made this perception as if we're gonna both be brand new parents, and you were already in fact a parent, and I've never been the type. You know, there are some women that are like, well, if you have children, I cannot date you. I was never that type of woman. So I never understood lying and denying your children. I think that is never okay. And so when I started to heal, because what I did was I just try to push that memory to the past, right? And although it was still showing up in my dating, because again, I went back into the, oh, you're born the end of July, beginning of August. I'm not dating you. I don't want to be bothered. Leave me alone. I left that alone. And then just continuing to, because I would be in the same circles as him. So we really couldn't avoid each other. So I was getting angry quite often, other than the times that I just knew that, hey, I can control it because I don't have to think about him out of sight, out of mind. But when he did come to mind and when he did come to sight, it was like World War III happened back then. When I realized, and this was a more recent revelation, like 2021, I was working with a coach, and the coach had me to do an activity where I had to list every person that I was ever in a relationship with or emotional connection. And she was like to identify the good things that you liked about the person. When I got to him, I could not think of anything. Like literally could not think of anything. It was just like there's nothing good about him. Like even like knowing that I found him at one time attractive, I can't even put that. I was like, I mean, I could put that he was nice looking, like, she was like, no, we gotta go. There has to be something, Tanisha. And I couldn't think of anything. And I want to say about 2 weeks after that activity, I went to the mall and this gentleman walked past me and he smelled so good. And the scent was familiar. And I realized that was one of the scents that my ex used to wear. And I was like, dang, that was one thing I do miss about him. Because when he would come over and he would lay on that pillow would keep that scent for a good week, for a good week. By the time it's time for you to do your laundry, to wash your sheets again. And I was just like, oh, it was just linger. And I was like, wow, I finally found something good. And that's it. To this day, that's all I could say. But I'd rather find that one positive thing versus focusing on all of the negative things. And that's the second thing that that you're healing when you can finally name something good about the situation, right? Without having to try to rewrite the entire story, right? You find one good thing and just let that be the reality. You don't have to make it more than what it is. You don't have to try to conjure up and try to draw new conclusions. No. If the scent of the smell that he wore, the colognes that he wore, and it just mixed well with it, that's a beautiful thing. Hold on to that, and that's it. Right. And then when I got to I think 2022, he accidentally called my phone, which I think is hilarious that he still has my phone number. But when I heard the voice message and I heard his voice, I didn't get agitated. I didn't get excited. All I said was, absolutely not. I rebuked this in the name of Jesus, and I just blocked the number. Like, that's all that I did, right? And that was another way of me knowing, like, there's a lot of emotional maturity happening, right? There's a lot of growth happening. I'm not holding on to that. I'm not angry. I don't, I won't say that I don't care what happened, but I don't care what happened, right? It's not defining me. It's not telling me that, my next person is going to be um just like him. I was actually, for the first time so we broke up in 2012. The last person that I was in a relationship with. He actually was his birthday. His birthday, I think, is the day after my ex's. So the day after my ex, yeah. So my father and the first ex 3 days apart, and then the last ex, his birthday is the day after my ex, 2 days before my father's. So they just all stayed around. But the last person that I ended up being with, despite his zodiac sign, that just proves like those things are not a tell all be all. I do believe there's some validity to it when you're focusing on the entire chart, and most people don't do that. So that's why I feel like it doesn't even matter. So that was the second thing. Now the third thing, like I said, it ties back to my ex-boyfriend. So the third thing is that I had to forgive myself and not just focus on forgiving them, right? And so that's also how because now I had to sit and look at this reality of this relationship. Should I have stayed in the relationship for as long as I stayed? And the reality was no. This person showed me very early on that they were not going to be a good partner, that they were not going to be a supportive parent, based off of the situation that happened with the miscarriage. When I was going through that miscarriage, I'll give you a perfect example of what he did. Um, I was at the hospital because I'm experiencing bleeding and I'm worried, I'm concerned. And so I'm thinking, like any other person, you call your partner, right? Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, and you're pregnant. You're like, hey, I'm in a hospital. You're thinking that when they say to you, I'm on my way to Brooklyn now, you're thinking they're on their way to Brooklyn to see me, right? And I think I might have been crazy to think that, but that person drove past the hospital that I was at to go to a social club meeting, not a union meeting for work, not a meeting, not a doctor's appointment where, not something with their parents. It was so insane that you bypassed where your girlfriend who was pregnant with your unborn child to go to a social club meeting and you was not there for them. And so this is where I had to sit. And I remember having this conversation with one of my homeboys because he also was familiar with him. He knew him. And he was like, yo, T, you need to leave him alone. If he left you like that and he wasn't there for you, then like he already shows you who he was. And that's why I often say when I'm like responding to these kind of conversations online and people are talking about, 5 years I was with them, I always ask them, when was the first time you ever felt like that person was not going to be there for you? When was the first time you ever felt disrespectful? Disrespected? When was the first time you saw that this person might not be the person for you? And 9 times out of 10, most people can say within that first year, right? I seen it within the first 6 months and I still stayed. And that's something that I have to be accountable for. I had to forgive myself. Like I remember sitting home and writing a letter and saying, Tanisha, I forgive you for staying longer. You already had the proof, the evidence. I should have never learned about the kids, right? I learned about them kids the ending of 2012. Our miscarriage happened. The day of was April 1st, 2011. I should have never found out about those children and that woman. I should have never, because I should have walked away in April sometime of 2011, right? And I recently commented, and I said to someone, I said, if we got into the habit of leaving the first time, that we saw someone's true cards. We're not talking about leaving because they left the toilet seat up, right? Leaving because, they messed up your coffee. No, we're talking about the first time you saw it for your own two eyes. This is not going to be it. So it could be the first hit, the first they stole your money, they crashed your car. Like, I've heard crazy things, and people are like, I'm staying, I'm gonna give them a second chance. And I said, if more people started to leave after the first time, I said, I guarantee you that will also help with dating and relationships, and it will help people to realize, yo, I can't lose, right? I'm gonna be very honest. um I cheated on someone in my early 20s, and he left that first time. And I can't be upset with him, right? Because it made me realize, if I really valued you, I'm always going to prove that. I'm always going to show that to you. I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize that relationship. And so many times people keep doing things to us because we keep forgiving them. And I don't fault the people that walk away, and because they're like, I can't do this, right? I don't fault my ex. My ex, he left, cool. He's happy. He's in his life has gone on, and I'm happy, and I'm thriving in the life that I'm living. But that's something that I had to forgive myself. Talking about the person that I stayed with after seeing like the true hands that was dealt. And so I stopped making those excuses for him. I stopped being angry with him, because I also had to realize what game I played, right? I was at the table, we was playing Uno, not really, but I had a hand in it. And I could have threw my hand in it any time prior to it getting to the extreme that it did of finding out of his double life. So I I really wanted to share this because, like I said, so often people don't understand, like, this is what happens when healing starts happening, right? Your body stops reacting the way that it normally does. You're not angry, you're not holding resentment, you're not frustrated, you're not banging and busting out walls. You can start to reflect and name a good thing, one solid thing. Like, you know what? This might not be the best thing, but it's the honest response, and you're not trying to rewrite history to make it seem like you're the better person or they're the better person. You're just able to identify for the first time some type of good moment that you have in that situation. And then the third thing is that you're able to forgive yourself for your part, whether staying too long, not leaving, or just inviting certain things. Like, I could think of all these situations of where we have to be accountable for the part that we play. Now, I can't say the same thing about the relationship with my father. Only thing I can be accountable for is, yeah, I said a lot of hurtful things, right? I probably said things that I should have never said to a parent, because as a child, that's what a child's supposed to do, supposed to respect their parent, and I did not. So I also have to be accountable for that. And I own that. The first one of the first conversations I said to my father was like, look, I'm gonna own up, and I'm sorry for all the things that I've called you, and I said all these things, and it was horrible, and all I could do is ask God to forgive me, and if you want to forgive me as well, cool. You see how I said that? If you want to forgive me, I'm not making this man feel like I need him to forgive me, because I have to forgive myself. And whatever journey he's going to go through, and we're in a better space. Like, we're not besties. Like, we don't speak every day, but I don't have that hate anymore. And that's one of the best feelings that I have. So, yes, I still speak to my father, and we still have a cordial relationship. My ex is somewhere living his best life, I hope and I pray. I have no desire to reconnect, right? So, when you're healing does not mean that you have to re-invite people into your life. That's another misconception that a lot of people have. So I want you to think about this. When did you know you were healed from a situation? When did you know? You can share it in the comments. You can come back to this video. You need to like really let that marinate, or you can just go to your journal and you can write this out. But I really want you to start paying attention, and you start to identify when you have started to heal and when you have healed from a situation. And again, this could be one person at a time. This is not going to be a one size fit all. This is not going to be a one and done situation. Things are going to trigger you. It's about how are you going to respond. Like I said, my ex reached out to me in 2022. I heard that voice message. I heard his voice. And the only thing I could say was absolutely not. And I laughed and I went about my business. We don't know. There's no need to reconnect. There's nothing that I need from you. And if I did, I am going to go and find someone else that can do whatever it is because there's no need for us to reopen up that door. And that's just a peaceful space that I'm in, right? No, no ill feelings, no bad blood. But that's how I knew, and I'm thankful of that journey. So I wanted to share this because, like I said, so many times I hear this question, and people do inquire, and I just want to help. I want to help people to figure that out and start seeing. So if you are not connected with me, you can go over to my link tree. It's in my bio it's in the description for both Facebook and for YouTube. You can connect with me about my books, about my community, Inspirational Trailblazers, my courses, and even my blog. We are here every Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern on Facebook and on YouTube. Facebook, the videos get deleted after 30 days. So you can always go over to YouTube and hang out with me over there. The videos don't get deleted. So you can always come back and go and do a replay off of these different videos as it resonates and it helps you as you're growing. As always, I love you. I hope you have an amazing Friday. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Be well, be blessed, and go out there and have a great day on purpose with purpose. I am your girl, Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.